This is the Meadows Roundabout. It's at the junction of the A30, the A321 and the A331, which leads to the M3. It's a very busy and complex junction that's controlled by traffic signals as well as the gyratory itself. Normally, with the types of volumes of traffic that are using this junction, one might expect to find a grade separated junction like you'd find at a motorway intersection. But of course here, to keep costs down, this was paid for by a developer that built the out-of-town shopping centre. The junction suffers because it falls within 3 different counties, that's Surrey, Hampshire and Berkshire. It involves 3 different police forces and 3 different district councils. So in order to design any improvement for such a junction, you can imagine that there's a very long period of negotiation involved. The junction immediately was the subject of a lot of discussion due to minor accidents that were occurring. It's taken until 1996 to be able to address those accidents, and the majority of them involve people weaving around the junction and not knowing which lane to get into because there were inadequate lane markings. One of the county councils is Surrey County Council, and they decided to take the initiative and to do something about the problem, and they were pushed into this by Surrey Heath, who have an agency agreement with them, and were getting fed up with receiving lots and lots of complaints almost on a weekly basis. People were actually afraid to go to Marks and Spencer's, for example, because they wouldn't use the junction, it was that bad. Stilwell Bell are consultants to Surrey Heath, and we were brought in to look at the problem and to come up with some solutions. In this case, there were approximately 10 to 12 accidents per annum over a 3-year period, and so quite clearly there was a problem. But in addition to that, the Surrey police were particularly concerned at the time they were wasting on damage-only accidents.
We've had a problem at the Meadows Roundabout for some time now over injury accidents that have occurred, and for the last, in 3 years, we had 36 injury accidents, plus numerous damage-only unreportable accidents caused by the design or lack of design and road markings at the Meadows Roundabout.
We worked closely with the police, and we did some in-depth accident investigation. We decided there was quite a clear pattern of people lane switching. They just physically didn't know which lane to be in. We employed a company called High Level Photography, and they took us some footage during 2 peak hours, morning and evening peak hours, to show driver behaviour before the scheme was implemented. If you look directly below the 5 in the date, you'll see a bright yellow Metro. And if we follow it in slow motion through the junction, watch what he does. You'll note he's in the lane nearest to the roundabout, and now he wants to move across to exit to the A30, which is the junction in the right hand corner of the screen. He tries once, he's pushed that blue car across, and he'll try again behind the blue car, and watch the light blue car behind him. The light blue car was in lane 3, and he too wants to come down the A30, and he's going to have to cross the hatching in order to achieve it. Now let's look at that at normal speed. So here we have another example, again in slow motion. Notice the queue from the stop line on the left here, and if you look at the top left of the screen, you'll see a camper van beginning to join the queue. It's just left a green signal to the left of the picture. Now the queue's beginning to move, the camper van is still stationary, but watch the camper van and the cars all around it, and this typifies the problem that we've had. Note the near side lane is still empty, and all this traffic is queuing up stopping the through movement at the junction. The camper van is still stationary. He's just beginning to move. And we'll watch the silver car in front of it, and you'll see a light blue car just behind this big lorry. And as they come through the junction now, we see there the camper van. In front of it and in the same lane is a light blue car. In front of that is a dark blue car. On the next lane across we have a white Vauxhall, and behind that a silver car. If we watch these vehicles in slow motion again, the Nova is turning right, the Vauxhall's turning left. Now the light blue car doesn't know what he's doing. The camper van comes round the back from lane 2 into lane 1. The blue car's now decided he's going to come down the A30, and the silver car had to wait for him. Now let's look at that at normal speed. As a result, I spoke to one of my colleagues from South Africa. We have a small office in Cape Town, and Alan Walker, he had devised a scheme of spiral markings for roundabouts for use in Cape Town. He was sent back to the UK to talk to the TRL and find out what their view was of spiral markings. Normally, when we undertake highway schemes, we stage a public consultation exercise where we build an exhibition that are easily understood with lots of diagrams and maps and photographs and artists' impressions, that type of thing, and we explain to the public exactly what we're trying to achieve. In this particular case, that was always going to be difficult because unlike a traffic calming scheme in a residential area where you have a captive audience, here this is a through route. There's a lot of people that only use the junction once or twice a year, and therefore we decided that we would run an experiment. It would be adequately signed as an experiment, and we didn't really believe that that the public would really understand what we were trying to achieve until it happened. Having agreed the scheme in concept, we then set about designing the detail on AutoCAD so that it could be modified. It's going to be an experiment, and therefore it needs to be adapted if necessary, and quickly and easily.